Uhuru. Don't be afraid. Uhuru. Okay, for those of you who may not know, uhuru is a Kiswahili word that means freedom. And it's the word that we use in our movement, not only to identify the movement itself, but to greet each other, because we believe that freedom has to be on the minds of African people and all colonized people and all freedom-loving people 24 hours a day, okay? So don't be afraid to respond with uhuru when I greet you that way. Uhuru. Uhuru, thank you. I bring freedom greetings on behalf of the National Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party and our chairman, Aisha, and the wider international Uhuru movement. Before I begin my presentation, I want to express the unconditional unity of our party and our people with the righteous struggle of the Palestinian people. Fighting against genocidal white settler state of Israel. And we declare, as we always have as the African People's Socialist Party, that there must be victory for the Palestinian people from the river to the sea. So we stand with you. I really want to appreciate having an opportunity to be on this panel, and just for the sake of time, I want to just say something quickly about who we are as the African People's Socialist Party before I talk about our case. And I know we do have a quick video. I'm not sure when, it's maybe like 3 minutes. I'm not sure when you wanted us to show that, but how should we do that?
It's news to me. I would give the presentation.
Give the presentation, and then we can do that? Okay, because I see it up on the screen. That's why I was asking. Okay, thank you. All right. So the African People's Socialist Party is more than 50 years old, and it's led by our chairman, Aisha. The theory that leads the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement is called African internationalism. This is a theory that explains the world, and it explains the role of African people in this world. As African internationalists, we recognize that capitalism was born as a world economy, and that it has its origin in the assault of Africa and in the global trade of African human beings, as well as the ensuing European onslaught on most of the world. For our party and movement, practice is primary. So for more than 5 decades, we've built a variety of organizations, campaigns, and economic institutions, and have championed and led around the cause of reparations for African people. We have built a solidarity movement of white people, members of the colonizer nation who actually fight against colonialism and work in the white community to win the question of unity through reparations. Our party built the first World Tribunal for Reparations to African People in New York in 1982, where the US government was found guilty of committing genocide against African people based on international law and was found to owe us at least $1.2 trillion for labor alone. Our chairman, Aisha, is a former member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He's 82 years old, and he's a political theorist and strategist who has traveled to over 19 countries, building the Black Power struggle throughout Africa, Europe, and the Americas, and establishing solidarity relations with other colonized peoples and their movements. He has driven the establishment of over 50 Black community economic institutions designed to free African people from the colonial mode of production and from welfare slavery. Today, we see that as the struggle of colonized people for liberation and self-determination intensifies, so does the counterinsurgency, or the efforts to repress the leaders, the organizations, and the masses of people who are fighting to be free. And as we organize to deconstruct this global system of colonial domination, we must be serious in our efforts to defend the movement, to push back the colonial state, and to continue to advance the struggle that ultimately is about making sure that the colonized people of the world have access to our land, our labor, and our resources. In June of 2022, I was sent by our party to our headquarters in St. Louis to help coordinate a program developed under the leadership of our deputy chairwoman called the African Doula Project. This project was a part of our party's multifaceted economic development and anti-gentrification project known as the Black Power Blueprint. The African Doula Project itself is a first step towards building an African Women's Center in St. Louis. We in the African Doula Project provided 14 African working class women in the North Side with the training needed to become full spectrum doulas as part of an effort to address the high rates of infant and maternal mortality in the African community in St. Louis. On July 2nd, 2022, while we were in St. Louis, we got word that a man with a military-grade flamethrower set fire to the huge red, black, and green African national flag that was flying high over our Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida. 4 weeks later, around 5 a.m. on July 29th, the morning of our doula training, the U.S. government attacked us with a violent FBI raid on 7 offices and homes of African People's Socialist Party and Uhuru Movement leaders, including the home of our chairman and our deputy chairwoman, Onezene Shatella, in St. Louis, the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida, and the Uhuru Solidarity Center in St. Louis. Chairman O'Malley, Deputy Chair Ona, and others were handcuffed with assault rifles pointed at them, while the FBI used flashbang grenades, drones, battering rams, breaking down doors and windows, and covered up security cameras as they stole property, computers, phones, files, archives, and more. 2 months later, in September of 2022, Change.org removed our Africans Charged Genocide petition that had over 130,000 signatures from people uniting with our call to charge the U.S. government with genocide against African people. On October 31st, 2022, activist Timba Shabanda was arrested while volunteering in our community garden in St. Louis on a bogus charge of making terroristic threats. He was held for at least 2 weeks, being interviewed by the FBI agents before being released. In December of 2022, we received word that indictments and arrests of 4 unindicted co-conspirators were imminent. On January 7, 2023, the church across the street from our chairman, which was under contract by our movement to build a community center, was burnt to the ground. On February 8, 2023, the FBI was slammed in a St. Louis alderman meeting, and the next day, on February the 9th, the State Department announced a $10 million reward for anybody with information that could help their case against us. A few days later, on February 14th, Pinellas County Board of Supervisors revoked funding for Black Power 96 FM radio, a low-power FM radio station that our party has operated for many years. On March 7th, we held a webinar that showed that the U.S. government was actually imposing sanctions against our movement, economic sanctions similar to those that are imposed on foreign countries that are not subservient to U.S. domination. Some of those attacks included Regions Bank closing our movement accounts, closing our credit lines despite having put hundreds of thousands of dollars in those accounts, calling back a mortgage that we had never been late on. Facebook blocked the ability for our organizers to crowdfund. GoFundMe stole $9,000 from our fund to be able to do a legal defense of our movement, and Stripe temporarily blocked sustaining donations. With the threat of charges for 9 months looming over our head, on April 18th, the chairman, Omali Shatella, and the African People's Solidarity Committee Chairwoman Penny Hess, and Uhuru Solidarity member, Movement Chair Jesse Neville were indicted on bogus DOJ charges of being Russian agents. Known as the Uhuru 3, the indictment charges Omali Shatella, chairman of our African People's Socialist Party, Chairwoman Penny, and Comrade Jesse, with conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States, acting as agents of the Russian government as they face a maximum prison sentence of 15 years on these completely bogus charges. The activities that serve as the basis for these charges include our work to run candidates for local election, on a campaign of Black community control of the police, and reparations to the African community, and work that we had done to charge the United States government with genocide to the UN. It must be said that the case of Uhuru 3 threatens the future of First Amendment speech protections for everybody, as everything the DOJ accuses our comrades of is supposed to be protected speech, speaking, broadcasting, or printing dissenting opinions. And the DOJ is trying to redefine disinformation, writing in their arguments that legally prohibited disinformation does not necessarily mean information that's not true, only that it may undermine trust in the U.S. sanctions, support for Western democracies, et cetera. So I want to just say that there's a lot more we can say about this case. In the interest of time, I want to tell folks where we are and what we can do. Right now, we have trial that's set to happen in Tampa Federal Court in September 3rd. We're calling everybody all out for the trial in Tampa. If you can make it, this trial is set to be about a month long, starting on September 3rd. If you can make it for a day, if you can make it for 3 days, if you can make it for a week, if you can make it for the entire trial, we're calling on you to come and show your support for the Uhuru 3 there. We also have a table that's set up in the lobby. This is a table of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, white members of our Solidarity Movement who are working in the interest of bringing white people into the leadership of fighting against colonialism. So we want to invite you to go to that table and get more information about this case. And also, you should check out our website, handsoffuhuru.org. There you can donate to our legal defense. You can sign our emergency pledge, sign our online petition, and you can join the coalition that we formed to do the fight back and make sure that our comrades, our chairman, Omali Yeshitela, Chairwoman Penny Hess, Chair Jesse Neville, don't see one day in prison. I want to thank UNAC for the opportunity to participate in this important conference. I want to thank all of you, many of you, who I know have played some role, even up to now, to defend the Uhuru 3, and I want to ask you to continue to show that support. Let's push back this state. Let's tell the United States government that we will not accept one day in jail for Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Penny Hess, or Jesse Neville. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Uhuru.